Oh, hey, what's going on? Hello, everybody. Yslas here, so you can see my name right there. First of all, jump in with questions, comments, hellos, how's it going, whatever you want. And I want to thank LP for inviting me to do this. This is amazing. I'm so honored to be part of the LP family, and this is going to be fun. This is going to be fun. So, hope to see you guys. And like I said, ask away, ask any questions. And let's do this. Let's do this. All right. Childhood. Wow. Okay. Childhood. Well, I grew up in Northeast LA in an area called El Sereno. And there was music, there was live music all over the place. I gotta tell you, it was pretty cool. There were bands down the street rehearsing. My brothers played. My brother actually had a band and they rehearsed at our house. And so I would just sit there. I would sit in the corner and watch them rehearse, like just amazed at how they played the instruments. I must have been like 4 or 5 years old, and the like I said, music was everywhere, whether it's playing on the radio, playing live with, in the back room or down the street. There was a band that would rehearse down the street. I can't remember the name. But I would ride my bike and just sit outside the garage and just sit on the curb and listen, and I was always attracted to the drum sound, by the way. Like how are they doing this? How are they, playing, yeah. But eventually I learned. So, but please go ahead, show the pictures. She wants to, oh my God. Yes. 7 years old. Wow. I think I was ready to slap a drum right there. Oh man, 11. Look at that. I want that shirt. I got to get that shirt again. I wish I had it, but in my size now. So yeah. So like I said, my brothers played, and I would just hang out, and eventually I started putting my ears more towards the drums, listening to rock and roll, anything, basically any style of music. And then I would put, you know what I would do? I would put uh, the yellow pages, these thick books that don't exist anymore. I would line them up as like drums, right? And then I would grab old tambourines and put them around the books like cymbals, right? And I would just, like I said, put the headphones on, put an album on, or just let the radio play. Usually it was just letting the radio play. And that way I would just try to mimic, with drumsticks or whatever I can. And then I would try to get some pots and pans. That's when it got a little louder. That's when my mom would be like, "Cállate," yelling at me in the corner. But I would just hit, man, and then hitting tabletops. I still do that. My daughter yelled at me a few weeks ago for, "Daddy, be quiet." So yeah, it doesn't stop. Trust me, it doesn't stop. So yeah. So like I said, okay, my brothers played. Eventually, I got behind the drum set that was in the rehearsal room. I rushed home one day after school, and I got home before my brothers did. So then I thought, ooh, I'm going to get behind that drum set. So I went back there, started playing, and playing 2 and 4, the full, just playing. And then my brother walked in, and I freaked out. I like dropped the sticks, and I was like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to touch the instruments. And he goes, no, keep playing, keep playing. So I kept playing, and he was like, all right, we got to get you a drum set. So I think later that Christmas, my parents bought me this very cool Ludwig. I think it was a 1975 wooden color Ludwig kit, and it was amazing. It had that John Bonham sound kick drum. It was a big kick drum, 24-inch. It was 24-inch bass drum, 14-inch tom, and 18-inch floor tom. So it was huge. And of course, a 14-inch snare. And I should have kept that kit. Oh God, should have kept it. Yeah, it would have been amazing. But yeah, so that's eventually kept playing, kept playing. Education. All right. So throughout, well, basically, I just taught myself in the beginning. You know, like I said, watching the drummers play and then listening to music. But then as I got older, I realized I needed to study. I needed to study with somebody to learn the real approach to playing, just to playing drum set, to playing anything. So eventually, I think around age 16, 17 years old, I started getting more into Latin percussion, more into hand drums, which which then took me away from the drum set. And okay, so when I started playing hand drums, I knew immediately I needed to study. I needed to study because I wasn't hitting the drum right. I wasn't getting the tones that I would hear other people play. So I studied at Grove School of Music in Van Nuys. It doesn't exist anymore, or if it does, I think it's just online. And there I met Luis Conte, who then I started studying privately with. And Luis said one of the funniest things. He's like, "Okay, hit the drum," because I thought I knew what I was doing back then. So I hit the drum, and he goes up to the class. This is in the class. He says, "All right, keep doing that, keep doing that." And I was like, "All right." So I kept doing it. I'm thinking, "All right, man, he's digging it. He's digging the way I play." So I'm playing, and he goes, "All right, stop playing, stop playing." He goes, That's exactly what Ray's doing right now. That's exactly how not to play." And he goes, he's like riding a bike backwards. And I died laughing. I was like, "All right, well, good thing I'm here." So then I studied with him, took other classes there. And then I studied privately with Luis. And then one of the best things I could have ever done was start listening to all different styles of music, all with that percussion is involved. You got to learn. You got to learn as many different styles to be successful and to be, able to work. Basically, if you just play one style of music, then all right, that's good, perfect it. But you learn everything. You learn as much as you can. You learn as much as you can. Hear my dogs? They're getting ready to bark at a neighbor. They bark at everything. A fly comes by, they start barking. So, all right. What else? What else? And then I had an opportunity to study with Changuito. This was in the 90s. This is way before internet and all this, right? Way before cell phones. And so the word got out that he was coming to LA. I think he made stops in San Francisco and LA. So word got out. I quickly got a hold of Rebecca Malion, who actually brought him into town. And I was able to set up an appointment with him and studied with him. And I went into that class shaking because now you guys know who Changuito is, right? I mean, Changuito is the guy from Cuba who basically taught everybody. Everybody studied with Changuito. If you went to Cuba, that's what you do as a percussionist. I've yet to go to Cuba. I haven't gone yet, and I want to go. So he made a trip out here. I think I was able to squeeze in 2 lessons with him, but that was life changing. It changed the way I approached the drum, because I used to attack, hard hitting, and he taught me how to get the tones with a softer approach, that way you don't kill your hands, and that was amazing. That was amazing to me. And of course, then continued listening, continued learning, picking up DVDs. Okay, also back then, I met Wally Reyes, my co-band member now. I met him when he was playing with Santana, and Wally invited me to his house, and we hung out, and we were watching videos because he had a bunch of, I mean, we're talking VHS tapes, right? So we would sit in the back room and he would say, "Oh, check this out. Changuito playing in Cuba. other musicians, other percussionists, and I asked Wally, man, can I borrow these VHS, the tapes? So yeah, I took them home, and then I sat with my TV right in front, the congas or timbales or bongos, whatever. I'll alternate. So I would sit there and just all day long, watching these videos, rewinding. And now all these videos, you can find them on YouTube, oh, and it's funny because I remember also when YouTube came out, again, Wally is like, hey, have you guys seen that thing called YouTube? You can type in anything like Cuban drum and it comes up. So yeah, but back then there was no YouTube. Back then it was word of mouth, word of mouth. Like another one of my favorite bands is 𝗟𝗩𝗘. They're from Venezuela, and 𝗟𝗩𝗘 was also, the music was very difficult to find unless you knew somebody who went to Venezuela and brought back CDs or albums, right? So a couple of people, I met some people that were, just into much as 𝗟𝗩𝗘 as I was. So 𝗟𝗩𝗘, different approach of playing. The music was a blend of a lot of like elements of rock, elements of dance music, but hardcore Latin instruments, right? I mean, we're talking, that band is like a 14-piece band. So that was a major influence on me as well. Big influence. And I'm talking, education wise, and also studying, hey, there's Gabby. Studying, my daughter, studying just with books, any book you can get, either way, reading it or sight reading. What was the name of that book? Jesus, Talking Drums. Excellent book, and it came with the CD, so you're able to read the chart as long with the audio, which was intense. I loved it. And then, of course, when I got into the LP family, meeting everybody within, all the other percussionists, and then we would get together, we'd do some playing, especially around NAMM show. Oh, that was heaven. You meet everybody and either for the first time or reconnect with old friends. And I got to tell you a quick story about LP. So I was telling Jules yesterday about this. So I remember when Tito Puente got his star on the Walk of Fame in Hollywood. So I must have been like 16 years old. I took the bus from my house to Hollywood because I wanted to be there. I wanted to experience that. It was crazy crowded. I mean, fans all over the place, and the band played. He did a quick, timbal solo. And I just, I'm trying to look over, like, where is he at? And I look to my left and I see Martin Cohen. And Martin Cohen was taking pictures, great photographer as well, And so I tapped Martin Cohen on the shoulder, and I said, you don't know me. My name is Yslas, but you're going to get to know me because I'm going to be an LP artist one day. And he just smiled. He looked at me. First of all, he did like, what? And then he just said, he goes, okay. He goes, I look forward to that day. And I said, awesome. And then I became an LP artist. I don't know, like maybe 5-6 years later. No, maybe a little longer. I think I was in my mid-20s. Yeah, just, and education doesn't stop. Trust me. With drumming, I'm still like trying to figure out tabla. I love that instrument. So any tabla players out there, help me out. But it's yeah, just amazing. Abraham, awesome. Thank you, brother. Thanks for popping in. Influences. Hold on, let me get some coffee. And I got cold. All right, influences. Wow, there's so many. Obviously, I mentioned Tito Puente. I mentioned, Luis, Lenny. Love Lenny's playing. Lenny Castro. Oh God, there's all the Cuban amazing first of all, any percussionist coming out of Cuba, I want to see how they play because it's instant learning, instant influences, and like their approach to just playing a songo pattern or just playing a wawanko. It's your own approach. I mean, obviously you have to play the correct pattern, but it's like it's very individual as well. Even just playing the straight up marcha, it, it depends where you play it, right? I mean, where you play it within the song, that makes it. It's either good or bad, for the song. It could work, it couldn't work. But once again, I go back to like I said, Wako, all those guys in that band, epic musicians, epic drummers. I've met. Okay, interesting story. Speaking about Wako and Vladimir, if you're here, pop in and say hello. I went to Venezuela, to Caracas, with Backstreet Boys back in 2001, I believe, or 2000. I remember. Oh God, 20 years ago. All right, so we went to we did a show out there, and the first thing I did when we got to the hotel, I went, I hit the streets. I wanted to go find a record store, a CD store, because I wanted to buy every single CD I could find of Wako. Because once again, it wasn't too easy. It wasn't easy getting that music here in the States. So I wanted to be the guy who had all the CDs. I wanted to be coming home and say, hey, look what I have, right? To my friends and everybody. So I get to the street. I'm on the street, ready to cross the street, signal. And I hear these two guys talking in Spanish, talking about music. And I was like, oh, I'm going to ask them where the nearest record store is. And I said, Spanish. I asked them, they said, yeah, you go down the street here, make a left, and right there, you'll find them. And I said, oh, perfect. Okay, cool. Thank you. And I'm waiting. One of the guys says, so what are you looking for, like music-wise? And I said, oh, I'm the best band out here in Venezuela, Wako. I want to buy all their CDs. And they both started laughing because they both were in the band. They were band members of Wako. And they're like, well, tocamos con Wako. And what? I like freaked out. Then, we walked together to the record store. I bought the CDs, and then they invited me the next day to their rehearsal. I was in heaven. I met them all. The guys called me up at the hotel. We're going to pick you up right now. Drove me down to it was a long drive too, man. Oh, and it was so hot. I could not believe the humidity. And whoever car we were in did not have air conditioning, and the windows were broken. The windows wouldn't roll down. So at every stop sign, we opened the doors to let air in, the hotter air, right? So and then close the doors and then go. So I just sat in the corner. I did not play. I honestly was embarrassed to play because I was like, I'm not even at their level, And so I just sat there and I watched and I videotaped them. I videotaped the rehearsal, and I asked them, can I videotape it, take home just for me? I won't, yeah. So of course, video. So it was awesome. It was amazing. It was such an experience. That was a major influence on me. That band, they still are. I still pop in their CDs or late, and they're still around. They're still around. Those guys have been around for a very long time. So. Okay, my first gig. My first gig, like ever, or my first gig, like, let me think about that. Let's say first gigs. All right. So one of the first gigs I do remember is playing drum set. And it was obviously with a cover band, guys from high school. But here's the thing. I was an 8th grader. And the guys were all seniors. And they were, like, one of the guys, his younger brother, was my friend. And he said, well, you should call Ray to play drums, because they were looking for a drummer. So we're playing Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, Judas Priest, Bowie, what else? I mean, that whole 70s rock and roll. And we played the first 2 gigs I remember. Okay, the first gig, we played at a club in Arcadia. I forgot the city nearby here in California, near LA. It was a club. It was an 18 and over club. So, and multiple bands were playing that night. So we went in, you know, we're playing, and like I said, the guys are seniors in high school, so they're what, 17, 18 years old, and I'm an eighth grader. So how old is that, Gabby? Eighth grade?
Like 12, 13.
Yeah, like 12. You know, 12. I have to ask my daughter. Like 12. So I'm 12, and they're 17. No, they're 18 because it was an 18 and over club. The guys were 18, so and they kind of snuck me in. All right, so we were playing the show, and right after we're done, I mean, literally, like we hit the last note, and we're like, all right, thank you. It was like a 30, 40-minute set, I remember. The club owner comes over and he's yelling at me. I just found out you're 12 years old. Get the hell out of my club. You're gonna get me in trouble. So I was like literally running, taking the drums out, and the guys were helping me move the drum set outside. The guys wanted to stay. So I sat outside, just like, all right, well, I'm just waiting for them, 11 o'clock at night, by the van. The guys had a van. One of them had a van. So yeah, that was my first gig, and I got kicked out. So, and all right, so another week, and then we would play, once I started high school, we would play all the high school functions. It was cool, man, because back then there were a lot of bands in high school, so we got to hang out and play and meet other musicians. All right, so then let's jump forward to like, and believe me, my parents were not happy that I was a musician. They were, well, that I wanted to play drums, and I'm hanging out with older kids. Why aren't you hanging out with kids your age? What's going on? I would sneak out. Put the drum set out the window, hand it over. Like, here's the kick, here's the snare, and then I'd come out, and my dad didn't know I was, taking the drums with me. I said, I'm gonna go hang out with the guys. See you later. But we would go and we play. We would play all day long, Saturday and Sunday, at my buddy Dave's house in his back room. And we'd then take a break, go to McDonald's, pick up food, come back and play all day long. That was my weekends. Loved it. And in between, we'd throw a baseball around and go to a park, but it was always the band, those guys. We'd hang out together, So, okay. So, like I said, my parents weren't too thrilled. He wants to be a musician. Oh, look at him. So, all right. So I started getting more into, like I said, percussion, right? And fast forward, now I'm playing percussion, away from the drum set, now the hand drums. So I meet this producer, musical director named 𝗟𝗑 𝗦𝗧𝗢𝗥, who then hires me to play with a couple of artists that he's working with. One of them is a Latin artist by the name of 𝗟𝗣 𝗦𝗘. So there were a couple of dates coming up. Mexico, New York, LA, like that. So I told my parents I had to go out of town, and my dad was like, "No, you're not gonna. You're taking this music thing too serious. You're taking it too serious now. We're not doing this. Go back to school." So, and right, David, right? so okay. So then I told him who I'm playing with. I said, "But Dad, I got a gig with this, Latin singer. His name is 𝗟𝗣 𝗦𝗘." And then my mom said, "What? Can you get us tickets?" No joke. They went from don't be in the music to can you get us tickets? So right there, they knew Ray's going to be a musician. And right there, I knew now my parents are cool with it. So it was pretty funny. But, and I worked with 𝗟𝗑, and we did a lot of dates. Actually, we toured a lot with 𝗟𝗩. Went all over Latin America, a lot of dates in the States. And then I got kind of heavy into the Latin market. Was working with Joan Sebastian from Mexico City. We would go, now if you don't know who he is, he's like Frank Sinatra of Mexico. He passed away a few years ago. But yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing. We went all over Mexico almost every week, and then working just like, sticking in the Latin market. And then eventually I got into the pop scene, the pop world. So, and yeah, it was pretty cool. It started working with, met Ricky Minor, who pretty much put me on a lot of the R&B pop scene, and very grateful for Mr. Minor and his incredible work, and still is one of the most incredible musical directors and leaders out there. and worked with him with Patti LaBelle, Backstreet Boys, Christina Aguilera, Jesus, many others like TV shows, some productions, some recordings, a lot of recordings. So all right, moving on. Any people jump in with questions? All right, what's this one? Instrument connection. Okay, Juan. See my cup? Yslas Avenue. Thank you, Laura. What's going on? All right, so the cajon. Yes, one of my favorite instruments. I'm not going to give you too much of a history. The history will come up on the screen a little bit. But there we go. The cajon. Let me read it to you then. The cajon is thought to have been created by African slaves working in tea plantations of Peru, most probably in the 18th century, though the original instrument is thought to date back further to the box drums of Africa. Now, okay, yes, there are many. Now, the cajon, all right, if you don't know what it looks like, basically it looks like a box, like literally a box. And speaking about that, I got a very funny story about that. Okay, a buddy of mine, a great drummer, Martin Flores. I went to his pad, right? Went to his house. He was still living with his mom and dad back then. And he told me he got a cajon, right? And he goes, I want you to check it out. So we were looking for the box, right? Like, where is it at? Like, he's like, dude, it's around here somewhere. We're looking all over the house, living room, the bedroom, everywhere. And his dad comes home and he's like, hey, Dad, have you seen that? I got a box. And he goes, I don't know what you're talking about. And he goes, yeah, it looks like, it's like this big and it has a hole in the back. And his dad starts laughing and he's like, oh no. And he goes, come here. And we go outside. His dad made a bird house out of the cajon. He literally put it there and he put stuff inside. Like, he goes, I wanted to make it. And he's telling us in Spanish, I wanted to make a little home for the birds that are flying. And literally there was a bird inside the cajon, like we could hear it. And yeah, that was pretty hilarious. Hold on, what? Wait, you want it? Okay. Sorry, Gabby wants her cup. Sure. Okay, so yeah, so hilarious, right? All right, so all right, the cajon. Now, I first saw the cajon, or heard it, I gotta say, with Jesus. Was it with? Yes, it was with Cecilia Noel when she would play at the Baked Potato. She used to do a show. It was like Cecilia Noel and the Wild Clams, right? Every Monday night, and that was like the highlight for me. I looked forward to every Monday going to the Baked Potato. I mean, that's when I was also beginning to meet all the musicians in the LA scene, right? And there was a segment of the show. Cecilia's from Peru, so she would do her whole almost singing, dancing, and the percussionist, whether it was Machito, Luis, Lenny, who else? Who else would be playing? Kevin Ricard. They would do a whole thing on the cajon with her, and that blew me away. And that we're talking early 90s, yeah, and like early 90s, maybe mid 90s. Okay, so I fell in love with that drum, so I had to get one, and it wasn't easy back then. It wasn't easy, I don't think LP was making a cajon then, and or maybe you guys were. Once again, I wasn't even with LP yet, so okay, so so I started working with a band named 𝗟𝗓𝗓𝗏. Ardeshir Farah is from Iran and Jorge Stranz is from Costa Rica. And so the blend of the guitar and their history, their culture, they would, two Spanish guitars, right? The band was bass, drums, two percussionists, and the two guitar players and violin. So my good friend Charlie Bisharet was playing violin, and who else? Who else? Oh my God! So well, you know. Anyways, so my job in that band was timbales and cajon and toys. So that's when I went crazy. That's when I was like, I got to get every different type of cajon. We have the Peruvian cajon, which is very dry sound, like a just it's a crack on the top and the thump in the middle, right? Just like above the middle of the drum. It's not directly in the middle. So the different rhythms, the Peruvian rhythms, the festejo, and Jesus, I can't remember the other. Pop in if you know the different rhythms. Type it in if you guys know it. I know the festejo is just one of the most incredible rhythms. So then, I had to start studying it. And once again, it's like, how do you start studying? There's not a Peruvian percussionist, but yeah, I did find a couple of guys. Even Cecilia helped me out. Cecilia gave me an album of just cajon instruction. So a CD, not an album, a CD. And it was amazing. I'm always grateful to her for that. And eventually I ended up playing with the band a couple of times too, which was so much fun, a major workout. So, okay, so the cajon, especially with 𝗟𝗩𝗦𝗘, then the band started getting smaller. When we would do dates of just sometimes the two guitarists and myself, and I would have to play cajon, conga at the same time. But the cajon has such a drum set vibe to any style of music. Nowadays, some singer-songwriters use it to do like an acoustic show or to do an acoustic segment of their show. They come out to the front of the stage and the cajon. I did it with Christina. I did that with Christina. I forgot on what song did we do? We did, it was Come On Over, Baby. So we did a very broken down segment of that. So much fun, and played it like a drum set part instead of like the traditional parts that you would play on that drum. Also, now, when I started hearing the Spanish version of the cajon, the flamenco and all the different rhythms of that, now that's a different cajon. That's a different built cajon. Now, that cajon is maybe a little bit wider and has either guitar strings coming, like if you're looking at it like this, like a box, it has guitar strings coming down in a V shape. So when you're hitting the top of it, you're getting a snare sound, and for me, I love the rattle. And then some cajons have the string inside from one end to the other with some jingles. So you have the thump with some jingles on it, and that blows me away. I love that fun. Now here in my studio, I got like maybe 7 cajons, right? Let alone in cartage, and let alone out in my road cases with Chicago. So yeah, there's I use it all the time. I use it especially in sessions. Some artists don't want a drum set in a song, but they want the sound. They want the 2 and the 4, right? So I'll tell them, look, I won't play drums, but I'll give it to you on cajon, and maybe use a shaker. No, that's what I would do with 𝗟𝗩𝗦𝗘, do a shaker with the cajon. So it sounds almost drum set-ish, like hi-hat. You got the 16 going on and the kick and the snare, and also the LP shaker, the blue one, perfect for that. The ones that open up. Yeah, just sounds incredible, that combination. And a foot tambourine, that's always helps too, with the 2 and the 4. Anyway, so when I'm in the studio, like recently, I was recording with Robert Lamb. Him and Jim Peterick wrote some amazing new material. So Robert sends me the tracks, and he says, I don't want drum set, but give me the groove, the complete groove. So I was like, all right. So I'd look around. All right, let me start with something. Let's start with a cajon. So start with a cajon and play it down, right? But then as I would layer more instruments, you can't really pinpoint the cajon, but if you mute the cajon, then something's gone, right? That's how important that instrument is. You're like, you feel it, but you're not saying, you can hear the conga, you can hear the tambourine, but you're feeling the rhythm. And I got to tell you that one of my favorite cajones is the 𝗟𝗏 𝗦𝗧𝗢𝗏 one, the 𝗟𝗑 𝗟𝗏 𝗦𝗧𝗢𝗏 cajon. That I've been using that one left and right. Also, the Americana, or is that what it is? The Americana. The Jules, help me out on that with the Americana cajon. Yes, okay. That sounds amazing. And sometimes, you know what I've done? I've done, now you guys got to try this, percussionists out there. If you haven't, I've recorded the Americana cajon, and then I layer it with the 𝗟𝗏 𝗦𝗧𝗢𝗏 cajon, recording it. And then I pan them, one on each side. So you got like this incredible, same rhythm, and maybe little, nuances here and there. Then you have this incredible foundation for the track, and even when you play now, the other percussionist was 𝗟𝗏 𝗦𝗧𝗢𝗏 was 𝗟𝗑 𝗦𝗧𝗢𝗏, Brazilian, amazing Brazilian percussionist. I miss 𝗟𝗑. I haven't seen him forever. So me and 𝗟𝗑 would sometimes play two cajones at the same time in one of the songs, and it just was so powerful. It felt like a train coming down the street, So yeah, I use it, continuously use it. One of my favorites. But there's so many. Come on, there's so many LP instruments. Come on, out there. Love them all. Love them all. So LP, what's this? LP, mi maraca preferida. Lo mejor. Qué bueno, qué bueno. I love those too. He just said he loves the LP maracas, and they are amazing. They are amazing. I just use them with Robert and Jim's tunes as well. Almost as a shaker vibe. So, you guys having fun? I am, even though I don't see anybody, but I know you're out there. So. All right, we're here. All right, guys. Well, if you have a question, please ask. I'm here to answer. I'm here for you. Anything. Oh, okay. Chicago. Let's talk a little bit about Chicago. All right. So now let's go back to my childhood, right? All right. So, like I said, music was always in the house. Was always in the house. And one of the biggest influences, now back to that little segment, was Chicago. Listening to Chicago Transit Authority was a major part of my musical elements of life, right? Just part of life. I learned the Danny Seraphim solo in I'm a Man. I learned that whole thing even before I got behind the drum set. I could air drum it, I learned that whole solo and every song on that album, every song, double album. The band's first two albums are double albums. Wait, three. Three albums are double. So, all right. So my brother and my sister-in-law, back then they were dating. I must have been 7, 8 years old. Yeah, about 8. They're in the house, right? Just Friday night, and I'm watching TV, whatever. And I hear my mom ask, "What are you guys doing tonight?" Right? And my brother said, "Oh, we're gonna go to a concert." And my sister-in-law, she said, "Yeah, we're gonna go see Chicago at the Greek Theater." I freaked out. I jumped up, and first of all, I got very upset that they didn't invite me, that they didn't include me in going to the concert. They knew I love Chicago. And then I blocked the door. I was like, "You ain't going anywhere. I gotta go with you guys." And I was crying. I was like, "I can't believe you didn't." I was hurt. I was very hurt. So my brother and my sister-in-law, they said, "All right, fine. We only have 2 tickets, but we'll exchange them at the Greek for maybe 3." So get in the car. I'm all excited. We get to the Greek. They had really good seats. They had seats like, I don't know, in the first 10 rows. But when you try to exchange 2 and then buy a third, way in the back, it was the last row of the Greek Theater, like where the concrete wall is. I'm against a concrete wall. So that was my very first concert. Chicago was my very first concert at the Greek Theater. And now fast forward to 2018. So Wally calls me. Wally says, "Hey, so you want to come in and do some dates with the band?" And I was like, "Yes, of course." It's like the dream gig. I gotta tell you, I remember hanging up the phone with Wally, and he said, "Look, yes, cancel what you have. You're doing it. You're gonna do it. Just cancel what you have. All right. I need you to confirm with me." And I said, "I'll cancel," because I had some other stuff lined up. Sure enough, started canceling, getting subs. And I remember hanging up the phone with Wally, and I sat in the living room for like about right back there, right back over there. I sat there for about like just 30 minutes, just like in awe, like wow, I'm gonna be playing with Chicago. But I didn't tell a single soul because I wanted to make sure I was on stage. Because you start opening your mouth like, "Hey, I'm gonna do this," and then, "Oh, by the way, hey, gig's not gonna happen." You never want to say anything until it happens. So I kept my mouth shut. Yeah. So and I told that story to Robert Lamb and Jimmy Pankow and Lee, the original members. And Robert's response was very funny. Robert looked at me and he goes, "I just can't even fathom that your first concert, and look, and you're here now." So pretty impressed. It was amazing. So yes, and I missed this. I missed the band. I missed the guys. I miss playing. I'm sure we all miss playing. But we're going to get back out there soon. We're going to have fun. And imagine how incredible that first show will be for all of us, for all you musicians, for me, even for the audience. That first show will be epic. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for dropping by. Much love. Alex, saludos. Saludos de Ecuador, mi amigo. Okay. Love Ecuador. Love you guys. Be well. Have a great weekend. Eat some great food, cook it up if you can, have some great coffee, and listen to some amazing music and just have fun. All right. By the way, we have the next segment. The next chapter will be August 20th with Camilo Molina. Camilo, have fun doing it, man. And we shall see you guys soon. Much love. Besos, amor. And we shall talk soon. All right.